Hello, Substackers, and welcome to new subscribers who prefer an audiovisual format over written material. My name is Penny, and this is Transforming Trauma, the main title of my newsletter blog here on Substack. There are two subsections within the Transforming Trauma blog: Penny's Ponder, which are just random ideas and thoughts, and Spirit Matters, a larger subsection dedicated to my interpretation of ancient spiritual teachings. This podcast includes audiovisual formats from posts in all three sections and will cover topics such as trauma healing techniques, ancient spiritual practices, and personal reflections. Podcast notes and, of course, the written version include all the links to the books and videos that I mentioned. Remember, this podcast is not just a monologue, but a conversation. Your thoughts and your aha moments and your resonances are what make this community vibrant and alive. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and share your voice. It truly matters here. Today's podcast is entitled Justice and Good, Vengeance and Evil. It was originally written on December 5th, 2023. Have you seen the third installment of the Equalizer movie series yet? I'm a big fan of this genre of movies, and I especially like Denzel's portrayal of Robert McCall, the warrior assassin who, out of the goodness of his heart, seeks justice, or maybe vengeance, for those who aren't capable of getting it for themselves. The character of Robert McCall is a super duper government trained assassin who can kill a room full of thugs in 9 seconds. In contrast, the apparent bad guys are bullies who have gained their power through intimidation, theft, manipulation, coercion, human trafficking, drugs, and murder. Now that I've been red pilled, the irony of this duad doesn't go unnoticed. Obviously, I'm not the only one who enjoys watching the hero take out the bad guys. Movies like this are hugely popular, and that speaks to our collective desire for a hero to save us from the bad guys. But who determines who the bad gals and guys are of this world? Emotional wounds, like physical wounds, fester over time. For those of us who have been abused or assaulted, manipulated, coerced, and mistreated, the more we ruminate on what happened to us, that bad person will eventually grow to giant sized proportions. We rarely, if ever, consider that our perspective was formed at the time of the initial event with the level of understanding that we had at that time. Even if we were older, say we were 12 or 13, we still weren't psychologically equipped to properly assess what happened to us. Yet, we use those mind files as our references for our adult lives. The moment that we realized that we were powerless to stop whatever it was that happened to us, we gave birth to an anger monster. Because this anger monster is our child, we nurture it by finding ways to justify it. And every time we justify it, our desire for punishment grows. Why? Because punishment validates our hurt feelings. Left unchecked, though, this anger monster child of ours will grow into a fire breathing dragon that inflicts pain and suffering on others. We become the very thing that we're angry at. We say things that hurt people. We do things that are manipulative and coercive and mean and abusive, even. And we justify our actions in the same way that those who abused us justified theirs to themselves. This is how the cycle of abuse and harm continues throughout the generations. No one likes to feel powerless, and no one likes to feel weak or be taken advantage of. With all the knowledge that we've gained over the years about human behavior, why isn't the cycle of abuse stopping? Lately, I've been reassessing my previously reassessed perspectives, trying to figure out what I missed in my healing journey. If I had truly resolved my childhood trauma, my PTSD wouldn't have been triggered during the pandemic. So, which mind file wasn't resolved? Was it the abandonment file? If this was the file referenced, who abandoned me? The medical system? Systems are made up of individuals, so saying that the medical system abandoned me isn't fair because there were plenty of doctors and nurses who refused to go along with the oppressive status quo. Several doctors spoke out against the dangers of gene therapy and masking children and social distancing, which is really antisocial conditioning, and locking healthy people up in their homes. I learned a long time ago that medical professionals are not gods. They're people, and they make mistakes just like all the rest of us. Okay, so maybe it was the government. Well, I don't know. I didn't have an emotional attachment to the government, so it's not possible for this institution to have abandoned me. Still, I did develop a healthy mistrust, and that mistrust eventually became fear. The fear caused me to wonder how much power this institution actually had over the people, and if that was how it was supposed to be. Maybe it was the legal system. Well, again, there's no emotional attachment to begin with, so there's no possibility of abandonment. But like the government, I became increasingly mistrusting and afraid of them. I found it unbelievably shocking that members of the police were eager to beat protesters with batons and use tear gas on a crowd that wasn't even violent, and even trample people with their horses. Why would anybody trust an institution that justified that kind of behavior? Maybe it was the general public. Hmm. Well, admittedly, I was shocked at how many people were blindly obedient. But I have no emotional attachment to the general public. So again, the masses couldn't have abandoned me. What about personal friends? Well, like most people, I kept in touch with friends and family on Facebook, but when I realized that Facebook was openly censoring information and that pretty much everyone I knew was falling for the propaganda, I deleted my account. I believe that what you participate in grows, and I refuse to participate in a platform that was, and still is, intentionally manipulating people. When I learned how pervasive the use of manipulation and intentional conditioning through our education system and movies and TV, well, the more selective I became in what I was willing to watch and read. The fact that our military used psychological warfare techniques against its own people was shocking to me. You can read that admission in the links provided. Unsurprisingly, the documents that they used for the propaganda program have gone missing. I bet the dog ate them. Okay, so if it wasn't abandonment, then which archetypal wound was opened? Or was I also the victim of the military grade psyops that was going on? Hmm. I've also been pondering the rise of evil. I wholeheartedly believe that there is an evil energy at work here. It has poisoned the minds of hundreds of thousands of people, and it got to be stopped. I feel like we've all taken a huge step backward into the 1930s because it feels to me like the atrocities we learned about in the 40s are being repeated. Consider this sentence from the introduction of Erich Neumann's book, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. It's the first sentence. It says, "The problem of evil is one of the most central problems of modern man. No appeal to old values and ideals can shield us from the recognition that we live in a world in which evil in man is emerging from the depths on a gigantic scale and confronting us all, without exception, with the question, how are we to deal with this evil?" Erich wrote this book during the Second World War. In his preface, he asks, have problems of ethics, or even of a new ethic, any relevance at all in an age dominated by the dance of death, to which National Socialism in Germany was little more than a prelude? The nations which only yesterday were proclaiming their solidarity in the battle for the freedom of mankind are now competing against each other in the production of the atomic bomb. And who could doubt that the unthinkable of today will be the commonplace of tomorrow? What is the point in a world situation such as this of the ridiculous ethical question and the still more ridiculous answer? It depends on the individual. It's fascinating to me that decades later, we're in the same position, don't you think? It seems to me that the cycle of abuse that runs in families extends to systems. Isn't that the definition of chaos theory and the butterfly effect? Ever since I can remember, I've always believed in God. Couldn't explain to anyone what I thought it was, but I knew it existed. Oddly, now thinking back, it was only when I began studying the science of psychology that I really started questioning my belief in my faith. Over the years, I've researched multiple belief systems and still cannot say with 100% conviction that I know who or what God is. But I can say with 100% conviction that I know that there is something that is informing and learning from all of us who inhabit this mess of a world. I also believe wholeheartedly that evil exists. I've seen it and I've felt it. I've been in a room with people who have willingly given themselves over to the dark side, and I know that you can't negotiate with them. Thanks for taking the time to watch or listen, or maybe watch and listen. I hope you heard something today that can help you help yourself. Thanks for being a part of this transformative journey with me. Your support, whether it's through liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, is invaluable. If you're enjoying the content, consider joining my Substack community. Together, we can delve deeper into transforming our trauma through ancient teachings and continue our shared exploration of the healing process. That's it for today. But remember, you are not defined by your wounds. You have the power to transform and grow beyond them. I believe in your potential for healing and change, and I hope that you do too. See you next time.